Space Marines. The Adeptus Astartes are the Imperium's most famous warriors, genetically engineered super soldiers created specifically to fight the wars that ordinary humans cannot survive. The process begins when a young recruit is implanted with up to 19 additional organs engineered from the DNA of one of the 20 original Primarchs. Space Marines then grow to about 8 feet tall and develop reinforced bones and muscles far beyond those of any normal human. They can see in the dark and survive wounds that would kill ordinary soldiers. They are organized into independent units called chapters, each containing roughly 1,000 warriors. Each chapter operates as its own self-contained military civilization, with its own fleet, fortress, culture, and its own set of traditions that have developed over thousands of years. Chapters answer to no planetary governor. Their only authority is the Emperor. There are over 1,000 chapters active in the modern galaxy, each tracing its genetic heritage back to one of the original Primarchs. The Ultramarines, Blood Angels, Dark Angels, Space Wolves, and Imperial Fists are among the most well-known. In recent years, the Imperium has introduced a new, more powerful breed of super soldier called Primaris Space Marines. Created by Archmagos Belisarius Cawl under the orders of the resurrected Primarch Robite Guilliman, these advanced warriors are physically larger, stronger, and faster than traditional Marines. They receive 3 additional genetic organs, making them even more buffed for battle. Astra Militarum. Commonly called the Imperial Guard, the Astra Militarum is the largest military force in the galaxy. It is made up entirely of ordinary humans with no genetic modifications and no guarantee of survival. What it does have is numbers beyond imagination. The Imperium controls millions of worlds, and every single one of them is required to contribute soldiers and supplies to the Guard on a regular basis. The result is an army estimated to number in the quadrillions. Every planet brings its own culture and fighting style to the force. Soldiers from a jungle world fight completely differently from soldiers raised on an Arctic wasteland or a densely populated hive city. Where Space Marines are deployed as surgical strike forces, the Guard is deployed in waves. Their battles are defined by heavy artillery and infantry formations. Losing 100,000 soldiers in a single engagement is considered an acceptable cost if the objective is achieved. The most iconic tank in their arsenal is the Leman Russ, and the most famous soldier archetype is the Commissar, an officer whose job is to keep morale high and shoot anyone who shows cowardice. Not every soldier in the Guard's extended family is equal. At the bottom sits the Planetary Defense Forces, locally raised militias that every Imperial world is required to maintain. They are the first line of defense when a threat arrives before the Guard can respond, which, given the scale of the Imperium, could mean years. At the opposite end sits the Militarum Tempestus, the Guard's elite special forces. Unlike standard guardsmen raised on their homeworlds, the Tempestus are recruited from among the orphaned children of Imperial officers and soldiers, raised in strict military academies called Schola Progenium. They carry superior weapons and wear heavier armor. These specialists are deployed for orbital drop assaults, arriving directly behind enemy lines. Adeptus Mechanicus. They are a religious order composed of scientists and engineers that worships technology itself, and they have spent 10,000 years replacing their human bodies with machine parts. Their belief system is called the Cult Mechanicus. They worship a god called the Omnissiah, the divine spirit of the machine. Every piece of equipment must be anointed with sacred oils and treated with religious respect. A tech priest who skips the blessing before starting an engine is committing a sin, not just cutting corners. Their home is Mars, the red planet closest to Terra, which has been their domain since before the Imperium existed. From Mars and dozens of other forge worlds scattered across the galaxy, they manufacture virtually everything the Imperium uses to fight: weapons, vehicles, warships, ammunition, and the terrifying city-sized war machines called Titans, maintained and crewed by a specialist division within the Mechanicus called the Collegia Titanica. Their army is called the Scutari. These are soldiers recruited from the populations around Forge worlds, then so heavily augmented with cybernetics that calling them fully human is a stretch. Limbs are replaced, sensory implants are added, neural interfaces connect them directly to the Mechanicus's data networks, allowing commands to be transmitted straight into their nervous systems. Their pain responses are reduced, and their ability to question orders is suppressed. Adepta Sororitas. The Sisters of Battle are the military arm of the Imperium's official state religion, the Ecclesiarchy, the Church of the Emperor. They are elite, power-armored warriors motivated entirely by religious devotion. Centuries ago, a law called the Decree Passive was passed to stop the church from building its own private army. The law specifically banned the ecclesiarchy from maintaining any forces of men under arms, so the church responded by founding an order made up entirely of women, classifying them as a lay religious sisterhood rather than a military unit, and arming them with bolters, flamers, and power armor. The law said nothing about women. Nobody had thought to add that. The sisters are organized into orders, each with their own specializations and traditions. The most famous are the Orders Militant, the frontline fighters who charge into battle singing hymns and burning heretics with holy fire. Their faith is not just spiritual. In the lore, genuine acts of devotion can produce physical miracles. Weapons that should have run dry continue firing, and soldiers on the edge of death rise and keep fighting. A famous example of this happened during a massive Tyranid alien invasion on the planet Ocassus. A leader from the Order of Our Martyred Lady named Canoness Praxedes was struck down with a fatal wound by a hive tyrant. Instead of dying, her intense faith gave her a miraculous buff. She rose up, summoned supernatural strength, and crushed the monster's skull. Powered by this divine energy, she defied death long enough to lead a guerrilla war against the remaining aliens. Imperial Knights. Also known as Quaestor Imperialis, the Imperial Knights are enormous, bipedal war machines standing roughly 9 to 12 meters tall. Each knight is piloted by a single nobleman from an ancient aristocratic family that has owned and passed down that specific machine for generations. The knight houses are feudal. That means they operate like medieval kingdoms, with noble families ruling over populations of loyal subjects on their home worlds. The eldest child of a knight pilot family inherits the right to pilot the family's knight when they reach a certain age, undergoing a grueling psychic ritual called the Ritual of Becoming that permanently links their mind to the machine's neural interface. This link has a cost. The longer a pilot operates their knight, the more their personality merges with the machine's accumulated history. Every battle fought by every pilot who came before them echoes in their mind. Pilots who push too far become fully dominated by the machine's instincts, turning into warriors called Chaos Knights if they fall. Knight houses owe loyalty either to the Imperium directly or to the Adeptus Mechanicus, depending on their history. Either way, when a knight walks onto a battlefield, entire armies change their plans. The Inquisition. The Inquisition is the Imperium's secret police, and it has no limits. An Inquisitor holds authority above that of any planetary governor, any military commander, and almost any institution in the Imperium. They can arrest anyone, execute anyone, and if they decide a planet is too corrupted to save, request its complete destruction. They answer to no external authority except the broadest interpretation of the Emperor's will. Their job is to protect humanity from the three great threats the Imperium refuses to discuss publicly: aliens, chaos demons, and heresy. These threats are so dangerous that the Inquisition operates in complete secrecy. The Inquisition is divided into Ordos, specialized branches focused on specific threats. The Ordo Xenos hunts alien threats. The Ordo Malleus hunts demons and chaos corruption. The Ordo Hereticus hunts heretics, rogue psychers, and corruption within the Imperium's own institutions. Individual Inquisitors operate almost entirely independently. They recruit their own teams, pursue their own investigations, and make their own calls about what constitutes a threat. The only check on their power is other Inquisitors, and those internal conflicts can be just as violent. Navis Imperialis. The Imperial Navy is the Imperium's space fleet, the force responsible for controlling the void between worlds, securing the routes through the warp that allow travel and communication, and delivering armies to wherever they are needed. The billions of soldiers in the Astra Militarum are useless if they cannot cross the galaxy to reach a war zone. The Navy provides that transit, protecting troop transports, supply convoys, and civilian shipping from pirates, alien fleets, and chaos raiders. Their warships are vast Gothic structures of iron and steel, kilometers long, crewed by tens of thousands of sailors, armed with weapons powerful enough to crack open a city from orbit. The largest classes are battleships, such as the legendary Emperor class and Retribution class. These massive flagships are supported by smaller, versatile workhorses, like the Lunar class cruiser and Swift Sword class frigates. The Navy operates separately from the Army, under its own distinct command structure and traditions. Entire sectors of space are commanded by a Lord High Admiral, while individual fleets are directed by an Admiral or Vice Admiral. Beneath them, a shipmaster or captain commands each individual vessel. Its officers are bred for void warfare specifically: navigation, fleet tactics, orbital bombardment, and the grueling multi-year voyages through the warp that define life in deep space. Adeptus Custodes. They are the Emperor's personal bodyguard, and each Custodes was created individually by the Emperor himself, using a process so advanced and so personal that it has never been replicated by anyone else. There are fewer than 10,000 of them in the entire galaxy. Where Space Marine creation involves implanting a series of engineered organs into a young recruit, Custodes creation is described as a process involving the Emperor directly working on each candidate at a fundamental biological level. The result is a warrior significantly taller, stronger, faster, and more resilient than any Astartes, but they operate in small groups or alone. For most of Imperial history, the Custodes never left Terra. Their sole purpose was to guard the Emperor on the Golden Throne and protect the Imperial Palace. Their most famous moment came during the Siege of Terra at the climax of the Horus Heresy, when they stood as the last defense between Horus's invading forces and the Emperor himself. Captain General Constantine Valdor fought at the Emperor's side during those desperate final hours. When the siege ended, Valdor vanished from all Imperial records, leaving behind only a cryptic whisper: "Only in death." In the current era, called the Era Indomitus, Captain General Trajan Valoris authorized the Custodes to deploy across the galaxy for the first time in thousands of years. Sisters of Silence. This is one of the oldest and most unusual organizations in the Imperium. Every member is born with no psychic presence whatsoever, a rare condition called the pariah gene. To anyone with psychic sensitivity, standing near a Sister of Silence feels like standing next to a void that swallows thought and emotion. This makes them invaluable weapons against psychers and demons. Where ordinary soldiers would be overwhelmed, a Sister of Silence simply cancels the effect by being nearby. Their presence makes warp-based powers fail and forces demons into weakened states. The Order is entirely female, and its members take a vow of absolute silence as part of their induction. Combined with their soul-nullifying aura, the silence makes them genuinely unsettling to even their closest allies. Their most famous deployment came during the Horus Heresy, when the Space Wolves and Custodes were sent to confront Magnus the Red on his homeworld of Prospero. A force of Sisters of Silence under Knight Commander Janisha Kroll accompanied them specifically to suppress the Thousand Suns' psychic powers. Officio Assassinorum. This is the Imperium's dedicated assassination service, a collection of 6 specialist organizations called temples, each training killers using different methods for completely different purposes. The Vindicare Temple produces snipers trained to deliver a single perfect shot from extreme range. The Caladus Temple produces infiltrators who use a drug called polymorphine to reshape their own body tissue and impersonate specific individuals for months. The Eversor Temple produces berserkers loaded with combat stimulants and released into an area that needs to stop existing. The Colexis Temple fields pariahs whose soul-nullifying presence makes them invisible to psychers and demons. The Vanus Temple operates as intelligence specialists and saboteurs. The Venenum Temple specializes in poisons and chemical agents. The Assassinorum is called in when a single person's death will change the course of a war. An assassin deployment requires authorization at the highest levels of the Imperium, and the kill order must be signed off by a majority of the High Lords of Terra. During the Horus Heresy, the High Lords authorize their most ambitious operation ever: assemble a strike team from all 6 temples and send them to kill Horus before the war could escalate further. The execution force infiltrated deep into enemy space and came closer to the War Master than any force before them. They ultimately failed. They killed a Chaos officer impersonating Horus while the real War Master escaped. It remains the most ambitious assassination attempt in Imperial history and the most costly failure. Adeptus Arbites. They are the Imperium's federal police force, and they are not the same as the local enforcers you find on individual worlds. The Adeptus Arbites are deployed from Terra, and their purpose is to enforce the Lex Imperialis, the single legal code that applies to every human in the galaxy. Their job is to ensure tithes are paid, and no planetary governor is ever allowed to act against the Imperium's interests. They are a heavily armored, aggressive force who move in when local law enforcement has already failed. They carry bolt pistols and combat shotguns, wear heavy carapace armor, and operate from fortified complexes called precinct fortresses embedded in major cities across thousands of worlds. Their most important moment came during the Age of Apostasy, a century of religious terror in which the corrupt High Ecclesiarch Goch Vandire seized control of the Imperium's church and government simultaneously. On worlds across the galaxy, where every other institution had bent to Vandire's authority, the Adeptus Arbites refused. They continued to enforce Imperial law regardless of who claimed to be in charge, and kept the Imperium's legal framework intact during its darkest institutional collapse. Rogue Traders. They are the Imperium's licensed explorers, individuals who hold an ancient document called a Warrant of Trade, originally signed by the Emperor himself or later by the High Lords of Terra. This document grants a rogue trader extraordinary legal freedom. They can travel beyond the borders of Imperial space, make contact with alien species without immediately killing them, claim unclaimed worlds in the Emperor's name, and command a private fleet and army to do it with. In exchange, the rogue trader expands the Imperium: new worlds, new resources, new trade routes, and new intelligence about threats beyond the border. Rogue traders are merchant princes, and the most powerful ones command battle fleets and private armies larger than those of some Imperial worlds. They operate in the gray zones where Imperial law thins out, trading in goods and information that would be illegal anywhere else. Some are devoted to the Imperium's expansion, others are opportunists who use their warrant as cover for activities that would get anyone else executed. The warrant passes down through families across generations. The Arcadius dynasty has held its warrant for thousands of years and built a network of contacts, debts, and dangerous relationships across dozens of sectors. Adeptus Administratum. The bureaucratic engine that actually runs the Imperium is the Adeptus Administratum. Every tithe, every census, every resource allocation across millions of worlds passes through it first. It staffs entire planets dedicated exclusively to paperwork. Without it, armies do not know where to go, and the whole machine grinds to a halt within a generation. Inside it sits the Estate Imperium, the Administratum's official records division. The Chancellor of the Estate Imperium sometimes holds a seat among the High Lords of Terra, the 12 most powerful individuals in human space. Control over the official record of everything means control over the official version of everything. Within that sits the Historical Revision Unit. When an event is too dangerous or destabilizing for the public to know about, they rewrite the record, reports are altered, and names are removed. Entire campaigns were made to officially have never happened. Orders Hospitaller. The Sisters Hospitaller are the Adepta Sororitas' dedicated medical order, battlefield medics, field surgeons, and administrators of Medicaid facilities across thousands of worlds. While the fighting orders charge into combat, the Hospitallers follow directly behind, treating the wounded, stabilizing the dying, and performing last rites on those beyond saving. In a setting where soldiers are considered expendable resources, the Hospitallers are one of the few organizations whose entire purpose is to treat a human life as worth preserving. They train to handle everything from bolter wounds to biological warfare, making them among the most broadly skilled medici practitioners the Imperium produces. Beyond the battlefield, they run medici facilities and hospice wings across thousands of worlds. Adeptus Astra Telepathica. The League of Black Ships runs permanent circuits across the galaxy, collecting every psychic human it can find. When a black ship arrives, the governor hands over every identified psyker. The black ships have been running these circuits for 10,000 years. These individuals are transported to Terra and handed to the Scholastia Sicana, the Imperium's psyker training institution. Those strong enough are trained and deployed as astropaths or battlefield psychers. Those too weak to be useful are fed directly to the Golden Throne as psychic fuel to keep the Emperor alive and the Astronomican navigation beacon burning. Approximately 1,000 souls are consumed this way every single day. Deathwatch. This is a shadow organization of space marines drawn from dozens of different chapters, every variety of Astartes, gathered together into one elite force to kill aliens. Individual Space Marine chapters focus on their own campaigns and their own territories. The Deathwatch cuts across all of that. When a chapter receives a request from the Inquisition's Ordo Xenos, it temporarily releases one or more of its warriors to serve a tour of duty with the Deathwatch. These warriors are called Watch Brothers while they serve. They paint their armor black except for one shoulder pad bearing their original chapter symbol, symbolizing their dual identity. Each kill team is assembled with deliberate tactical diversity. A sniper from one chapter, a close combat specialist from another, a psyker from a third. The combination is designed to handle whatever alien physiology and psychology they encounter. Their base of operations is a network of watch fortresses positioned to give rapid response to the galaxy's most threatened regions. Their most distinctive quality is the accumulated knowledge they develop. A veteran Deathwatch Space Marine may have fought Tyranids, Tau, Necrons, Orcs, and Eldari in succession, building an expertise in alien threat assessment that no single chapter warrior could match. When a new alien species is encountered and nobody knows how to kill it, the Ordo Xenos sends a Deathwatch kill team to find out. Grey Knights. They are not listed in any official Imperial records of military organizations. They are not acknowledged by the High Lords of Terra in any public document. If you ask an Imperial official whether the Grey Knights exist, the official answer is no. The Grey Knights are a secret Space Marine chapter that most of the Imperium does not know exists. They operate on Titan, one of Saturn's moons, deep inside the Sol system. What sets them apart is that every single member is a psyker, making them unlike any other Space Marine group in the Imperium. Their gene seed comes straight from the Emperor himself, not from any of the 20 Primarchs. Known as the Emperor's Gift, this divine genetic heritage grants them immense psychic potential and absolute immunity to chaos corruption. Their armor is etched with countless psychic wards, and their weapons undergo days of sacred rituals before they're deemed ready. Each sword a Grey Knight wields is intimately connected to its bearer at a soul level. Their main mission is to combat demons. When a demonic threat escalates to a point where no other force can manage it, the Grey Knights are called into action. After every battle, the surviving soldiers who fought with them have their memories wiped clean. Those who can't be safely erased are killed to maintain secrecy, and after-action reports are kept classified beyond the reach of most Inquisitors. During the First War for Armageddon, the Grey Knights faced off against Angren, a demon Primarch and one of the Emperor's own fallen sons, who had descended upon Armageddon leading a horde of bloodthirsters, the mightiest demons in Khorne's service. The Grey Knights managed to banish him. The Imperium keeps terrifying secrets it cannot let its citizens know about. The Grey Knights are the shield against those horrors. Officially, they don't exist. In reality, they are the last line of defense. Thanks for watching until the end. Click here to check out another video and see you in the next one.